Do you want to pick a colour, mystery sound?
Let's go
Just hit
with
it.
green for go.
Let's start. Health and happiness, everybody. Welcome to the Strength and Motion Show, an online experience curated specifically for the members and fans of Strength and Motion Academy. If you haven't heard of our space before, we are a 24/7 gym in Midvale, Western Australia, and our goal is to provide a space where people can build a strong and mobile body using a functional and holistic health approach to training and life. If this is your first time listening to the show, then thank you for tuning in, and I strongly encourage you to get stuck into our first 5 episodes. These first 5 are a complete deep dive into hashtag the holistic way, which is our 4-pillar approach to achieving health and fitness mastery. As experienced health and fitness coaches ourselves, we have identified movement, nutrition, sleep, and stress as the 4 key areas to always prioritize in order to live healthy and happy. You can do so by simply scrolling down to the beginning of this episode list or search the Strength and Motion Show on YouTube and Facebook. Today we are talking body composition. Body composition. Body composition is a change in your muscle and fat levels. So all goals relating to fat loss, muscle gain, lean muscle, toning, muscle definition, losing belly fat are all under the umbrella of body composition. Now, I find this a very interesting topic myself. Really, most people, if not all people, will be happier with a better body composition. The interesting part for me is that psychological tipping point in which you actually have to ask yourself, where do you draw that line? What is actually good enough for you? What is a look that's good enough for you? And where does that desire come from? Where does that standard come from? So if you don't value body composition, you can end up very unhealthy with a cascade of health issues. But then if you overvalue body composition, then you can become obsessive with things like an eating disorder or a variety of mental health issues, especially around food and your body image. So finding a healthy balance point is really what we want to get you to understand as a priority as part of this episode, but also teaching the nitty-gritty and the technical facts of actually how to achieve a more desirable body composition as well. So we're hoping to help you find all that today, and along with some clear strategies and actions to achieve that. So before we dive into body composition, let's invite Navar into the conversation.
Yes.
How you doing, Nav?
Good. I'm doing great.
What's going on outside of body composition? What's going in the latest of Nav's life?
This is something that's been on my mind a lot recently, but going deep, having children. A lot has been on my mind of having children, you know. We want to build the next health facility within the next 3 years, but I also want to start having my first child in 3 to 4. So a lot of my mind is obviously on business because it's a big part of my purpose, but it also sets me up for my future with my children. So that's what's happening in the life of Nav, is pretty much sorting my external life and my internal to have children, because if I can't look after myself, I can't look after a child.
Yeah, that's very fair.
And I want to give my child the best situation possible.
Are you gonna do like the stepping stone of like get a dog first, so you can kind of
practice
it?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll get dog our place, our dog, set up our family home and our family situation, and then have the child come into that space.
Get the pump on.
Yeah. I got to make sure the pump's good too.
Pump's good. Yeah, it's gotta
health
be
is
good.
Important. Body
Health
composition. I need some good testosterone.
That's exactly right. Get some healthy swimmers.
Absolutely.
Get some Iron Men in there.
Especially if I want to give my kid the best opportunity. You know, I want to be eating well, I want to be sleeping well, I want to be thinking well. I want to give my child the best genetics possible.
Yeah.
As we know, we can shift our genetics to a degree, and so that's where I'm at. And I know this is going to be a long 3-year journey just to prepare for that. And then I'm going to have a child, which is a lifetime journey. So
child or children?
I want 2.
Yeah, 2.
Ideally male than female. A boy than a girl.
Yeah. Do you have a preference? Because I've got a client who's pregnant as well. You know her.
Yeah.
And we had a discussion about, so she's got a boy, but she also would love a daughter as well.
Yeah.
But then I was like, well, what would you rather first? Would you rather the sister be the oldest, or would you rather the daughter be the eldest? So what would you prefer?
I prefer the boy, because as I was an older brother to my brother, and I love that responsibility. And I also like the idea of my daughter having a strong older brother as a good role model and protector to a degree.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to put that responsibility on him, so he could be whatever he wants.
Yeah.
To a degree.
Yeah. You just can't be a little shit.
Yeah. Which, knowing my history, most likely will be.
Oh, yeah, I feel the same thing too. Yeah. Look, I resonate with that because having the conversation with my client, I had a very similar thing as well because she asked me, she goes, what would you rather? And I was like, I would definitely rather if I had a boy and a girl, I'd rather the son be the eldest because then he could also be that pillar of strength for her as well. Yeah. In saying that, I've had good mates and through different phases, I've had best mates. They've had an older sister who has been the eldest. Yeah. And they turned out all right.
Yeah.
Turned out right.
Yeah.
But I
do think that as well.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Have you I think I know what dog you want, but have you put much thought into the dog?
We want to get 2 dogs at the same time.
Yeah.
There's been many people that advise us not to, but we've met people that have had 2 dogs from the get-go and the benefit of having them as friends. So I want a black Kelpie because my favorite dog when I was growing up was a black Kelpie. Yep. And then my partner wants OCM wants a Border Collie, and then they'll both be besties.
Border Collie was exactly what I thought it was going to be 2 Border Collies, to be honest. So
I want a black Kelpie.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
I have an attachment to it because
you just got it locked in.
Yeah, it was the most amazing dog. It was such a strong, smart dog, very compassionate, very supportive dog, and that was a big part of my childhood for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Kelpies and Border Collies work amazingly together as well.
Yeah.
That works really well. Cool. Nice, Nav. Okay, so on to today's hot topic, body composition.
Yes.
What is body composition to you, and what is your experience with it?
Awesome. So encompassing everything that builds up the body, we have your fat, your water, your bones, your muscle, your skin, and other tissues, right?
All the bits.
All of the bits, everything, minerals, vitamins, and you could track all of that. But what we are going to dive into and what we focus on is stuff like muscle and fat and even bone density. We could also look into that, and hydration. But the main thing that we focus on as coaches is the body composition between the muscle mass and the fat mass. Yeah. Because we know, and everyone has different heights, different sizes, right? And so someone might be 100 kilos at 15% body fat, where someone could be 80 kilos at 30% body fat. And what is most important is for that individual to achieve the body composition that suits them and their goals and their lifestyle, but also their health and their well-being, because it is known, it's a fact that holding a higher body fat percentage, where you're higher in body fat over muscle mass well, not over, but the relationship between your body fat and your muscle mass is so out of whack that now you hold too much fat, which is going to impact hormones, load onto the body,
energy
levels, libido, everything. So that's what we focus on and what we're going to dive into today.
Yeah, great point. And also, just for the record, which probably why most people are listening to this right now, but body fat and muscle mass are the two most common things that the public or our customers and our clients, that's what they generally focus on the most as well. And so works both ways with the health and just that general aesthetic as well. So can you kind of maybe just illustrate, just so we can get the listeners a bit more clear on visualizing what different body compositions might look like? For example, you might have like a rugby player, but then when we think rugby player, we think like kind of big, more muscular, tanky looking guys. But then within the rugby scene, there's 2 different types of guys, where you have like guys that are really athletic and lean and ripped. And then you got guys that are also like big and with big bellies and stuff. So do you want to like throw at me or throw at the listeners just a couple of different examples of common body types or physiques that someone might see on the street, so they can understand what we're talking about with body composition?
Yeah. So like you mentioned it, in one of them was the rugby players, and you could have people in more of the frontline defensive line that might have like 20% body fat, so a little bit higher in the body fat to percentage to someone that might be a receiver and a runner that might be around the 12 to 15%, because they need to have less weight on their body to be able to sprint and perform. Same thing as something like a AFL player. That's changed a lot over the years, but now we've got more tackling, so AFL players tend to have more muscle mass and a little bit stockier, but they also do a lot of running, so they're more leaner and stringier than a rugby player in most cases. You also have different weight divisions in like fighters, so like you'll have a heavyweight and a lightweight. Bodybuilders as well, they tend to be of the leaner end. Their body composition tends to be 12% sub when they're on stage at like 4%.
Yeah.
And then powerlifters, depending on the weight division, but they might be a little bit heavier. And then CrossFitters are super lean, but not as lean as a bodybuilder because they're not focusing on the body composition of getting on stage where you can see every single inch of muscle and no fat. So the definition is so apparent and so obvious.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good point for the listeners to understand as well, is that there's so many different applications of because we pretty much listed off different types of athletes. We haven't even touched on like the general population yet. Athletes are generally where most of us gain a lot of inspiration from. We look at them as role models because they're really the peak of the peak, and a lot of people aspire to be like that. And knowing that athletes can have blowouts as well, and maybe using someone like Alex Volkanovski, for example, he used to be like a super heavyweight. He was big, thick, and stocky dude. He's an Australian UFC fighter, for those who don't know him, but these days he's like super lean and ripped. And Goggins is another example. Like, he was huge, and then that's what we're talking about. He had a complete shift in his body composition and is now a lean, ripped dude. And so these things, these results, they're not exclusive to athletes. It's just more so the athletes are the ones that tend to display those results the most. But so many people have been on a weight loss journey where they've considered themselves as overweight, and they have finally got themselves to a point where they have a suitable amount of muscle mass. And so any sort of shift in body weight, people getting leaner, that's body composition. Anyone who starts to get more muscular, that's body composition. And even if someone who just cleans their act up with their nutrition, the quality of food, and their skin starts to get cleaner and clearer, the acne goes away, they just look a bit more vibrant, there's a bit more color in their complexion as well, that's also a shift in body composition as well. And so that's what we want to illustrate to the listeners, is getting to understand that body composition is not only a shift in look and aesthetic, there's also a lot of internal things that are happening that are of positive benefit as well. So what I got in my notes here? So Josh's helpful responses are just blah 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 blah. I also wrote here that I'm passionate about nutrition, because this is a huge factor. I just had to say it somewhere. I was like, I love nutrition.
Food is life, right? When I have this conversation with people and they I don't know, it's weird. I think a lot of people have this perspective that because we're healthy and we look after what we eat, we have this relationship where we kind of look at food as fuel, and it's in a negative sense because they have a negative bias towards looking at food in that way. And people don't want to go on a diet because they want to enjoy food and they don't see it as one and the same, or the possibility of it being the same.
Definitely.
And I know this is for you, but the same for me. Is we're passionate about nutrition because food, like food is life. It's not that we don't love food.
Food is the tits. I should say, sorry, pardon me. Food is the best.
The boobs,
The boobs, yes, the breasts. Food is the breast, but food isn't. And we will touch a fair bit on nutrition because it's actually a fundamental factor of a shift in body composition.
Absolutely.
No, I don't need to tell that story anyway. I was going to go on story time, but I actually kind of want to get into it. I actually want to keep sharing some knowledge for the listeners.
Love it.
So we're doing good for time. Nav.
Yes.
Let's hit me with like a bit of a breakdown. Let's start to break down for the listeners again. Help us get a better understanding on body composition. What are the factors that influences? So we know that there are side effects of poor body composition. So as like a health and fitness coach, I would describe poor body composition as someone who has fat levels that are too high. They would have muscle mass levels that are too low. So the person would feel weak. They'd probably feel a bit slow to any degree as well. They don't have to feel like massively weak, but they just feel weaker than they'd like to be. They'd feel heavier than they'd like to be. And then there's probably their energy levels aren't ideal as well. So what would be some of the side effects of, quote unquote, poor body composition?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, that's more the fat ratio. So if they're holding on to a lot more stored energy on them, they might experience health issues like diabetes or heart disease.
Yeah, that's a common one.
Chronic illnesses, digestion issues, skin issues. A lot of these also are byproducts of the lifestyle, right? Like we look at diabetes and heart disease, they're normally a result of excess energy and the lack of being able to work with glucose because they're eating so much of it, which is sugar. Same thing as like mood deficiencies, anxiety, depression, ADHD are big factors, especially if you're having a lot of sugar from a dopamine addictive sort of standpoint. You have the dopamine response, plus just so much sugar going through the brain and the body, and it could create this hyper active sort of tendencies and lack of ability to focus.
And they get a bit numb in some instances too, because they're numb to the stimulus because they're so constantly stimulated.
It's like people that can have 9 cups of coffee a day and then they have one before bed and like, I could sleep on coffee. And they say it with so much confidence. I don't know if that's something you should be confident about.
If you actually hooked them up to a machine that measured their stress levels and what was happening to the nervous system, they'd be in for a rude surprise for sure.
Especially if you remove it, right? If you then take away the factor external to themselves and then go into the internal processes and allow them to work off of their own system, and then you can't do that normally. Self-confidence being one as well.
Yeah, these are like the psychological and the emotional side of things as well. And it's true. Like I've noticed, even as my body composition, my body shape has changed over time. Even going through like being a stripper, and I remember, I don't know exactly when it was, but there was a moment when I was stripping that I asked myself, how would I feel if I lost my 6-pack? And I really had a bit of an internal panic moment where I just considered that reality. I'm like, I'd be no one without my 6-pack. And I realized like how attached to it I was. Like I was unhealthily attached to it because I'm like, I didn't know if I'd still be the same valuable me if I just had a belly. I'm like, what would it be like with a belly? And then I also thought, I was like, I don't really plan on having a belly anytime soon because I don't like being that unhealthy to get to the belly. But I had a lot of attachment to that. Anything else, Nav, in terms of risks of poor body composition?
Poor energy, being lethargic. I think also poor energy. For me, what comes up is also a lack of passion and charisma. Like you're so low in yourself and kind of heavy, and I see this with a lot of people that have a lot of sugar or are of a unhealthy body composition for themselves, right? And they're lacking that passion and charisma and courage to express themselves and be themselves. They go a little bit more inward and become more introverted. I've even seen that with many clients that have change their body composition and their personality changes. Their energy is changing, their passion, their charisma, their ability to express themselves, which goes in hand with self-confidence.
They feed each other.
Exactly. Which is why what we do, right? Like it's the best ROI, return of investment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Put a little bit of time into nutrition, your sleep, your stress and your movement. And happy days.
And continue to do that as well. I think that's a thing that people forget to do. I've had this conversation over the last couple of months, just a handful of times with my clients, where I'm noticing that they had the intention of like they would be aiming to get so fit or get so healthy so that they can just eat heaps of junk food and get away with it. And they want to be like, I want to be so healthy that when I have a massive bender on the weekend, it doesn't affect me as much. But I'm like, that's not the point. The point is that you transition your lifestyle into these healthy habits that you do now. You do these habits so that they're better. You fall in love with these habits more than the current habits you're doing. It's you're not trying to be rich so you can spend heaps of money. The reason you're going to get rich is because you enjoy saving money and putting it to good use. You get fit because you enjoy doing fit things, and you enjoy unhealthy things less, which includes the food and the binging and the sugar and all of these things that people are addicted to.
It actually makes me think, what you're sharing now makes me think about the way to be comfortable is to actually accept the discomfort. It's not chasing comfort because you're constantly chasing. Hormozy mentioned this, that when he had so much anxiety, he was chasing joy and happiness because he thought that was the way of being happy is be happy. But that is a trap, and it's not necessarily chasing that, is actually accepting the discomfort and moving into it. And a lot of that is battling our own laziness and our own consumerism and our own addictions. And and weirdly enough, it might seem like it's counterintuitive because you're moving into the discomfort, but in fact, that's what brings you comfort.
It's a good point. I'm just going to I'll have to do a quick Google in the background of this, but there is actually a book that I've read by Dr. Anna Lemke with a B in there. I'll figure out what it is, but it's Lemke. It's like Dopamine Nation or something. It's related to dopamine. I've listened to the audiobook a few times because I have I get very addictive tendencies as well when I was like, I need to figure this shit out. But what she was explaining is that the body is we know this now, but the body is biochemically designed to maintain stability or to auto-stabilize. So what she's saying is that if you pursue a dopamine rush or a dopamine hit, which is a positive emotion, which is fed by a positive hormone or a positive neurotransmitter, when you chase those positive highs and chase that positive biochemistry, in order for the body to balance itself, it actually has to release more of the quote unquote negative feelings / neurotransmitters and hormones to make you feel more balanced again. So every time you pursue pleasure, your body will biochemically rebalance with negative. But if you pursue the negative, such as like a training session, and she used ice baths a lot because that was people that are highly addictive, prone to being highly addicted to things, they just love ice baths. It's a very similar rush as what you get from like a line of cocaine or something. And so pursuing that psychological challenge of the training session or the fasting or whatever the protocol, the ice bath, whatever, because that was so challenging, the dopamine hit is higher than what the drugs would have given them, and it lasts even longer. And so a big part of what she says, there's a lot in the book, but a big part of what she talks about is to pursue more challenge and to pursue more things that you initially see as negative, because that allows your body to recalibrate itself with the positive. And you finish on a high, effective, what she's saying. And so that's a really interesting thing. It's a dopamine something. We'll put it in the recommended resources of this episode. Now I've lost where I am in our show notes. Oh, here we go. Nav.
Yes.
How would someone measure their body composition? And how does someone even know what even is a good body composition?
Okay, yeah, good question. So let's go with how would someone know what a good body composition is?
Yep.
One thing that comes to mind is going to the greatest lengths that I think you could ever do that with is if you were to see a professional that can work with your body and what is healthy and reliable for you and your lifestyle. But as a baseline, you could go online and you could look at different body fat, body compositions, and gain some understanding of, for a male, what body fat percentage is healthy for you, and then for a female, vice versa, of your body type. So put a little bit of energy into that, but then obviously seek professional help. You know, like, I know we keep going back to that, but in all honesty, I think it's an investment that would pay off far more than if you don't.
Absolutely.
Because we know this because we've done trial and error with ourselves. We put a lot of that energy in. And we've also sought help. We paid professionals, we sought help. So I think that's the first one is do that. The other simplest way is just look at yourself in the mirror or play around with your clothes using the scale as well. So look at how your clothes look in the mirror, and then also how you feel in those clothes. So you might be able to tell whether you're losing weight around your arms, depending on the tightness of the arm. If you're trying to change your body composition to gain muscle mass, then obviously you might want tighter arms, you know, like basic like that. But then you might want your belt to go lower at the same time, because now we're noticing that maybe your shoulders and your arms are becoming wider and bigger, but your waist is becoming smaller, which is normally a pretty good sign of body composition shift, gaining muscle mass while losing weight at the same time, which is what we want. You also mentioned here, which is really good, is looking at and being aware of your internal dialogue and mental health when you're looking at the scales and when you're looking in the mirror and when you're looking at yourself in clothes. Because as you mentioned, you don't want to get addicted to that process of trying to look a certain way. And then that could also create comparison of others. You might get so addicted to trying to look a certain way that you're detaching yourself from the reality of where you're currently at, accepting your growth, accepting yourself now, while also progressing at the same time. So
absolutely.
Other ones like with the professional body measurements and skin folds, you could use skin calipers or get a body scan, and you could do like a standing in body or eVault sort of scan. Or the best way ever is a DEXA scan.
DEXA scans. Top of the top.
Top of the top. And that you can find out everything about your body composition from a DEXA scan. So ideally, DEXA scan, see a professional. So you could go over the DEXA scan and then get an understanding of what's healthy for you and what you need to do to achieve that goal.
Yeah, I think that's great. And for the record, we used to have, at our gym, we used to have like a quarterly, so like 3 to 4 times a year, DEXA scan would come in, and that's a great amount of time. That's more than enough scanning as well. I actually, and if we do get a scan notice maybe at some point in time, the monthly scan is like the dream for me, and I think is also for someone who's training regularly and exercising regularly, which you all should be doing, is that monthly check in, because that just keeps you like right on the ball, knowing what's happening as well. Cool. Let's go for a little bit of a pause. We'll do mystery sound number 2.
Let's turn its volume up so I keep missing it.
Right to the top. All right.
Is that too loud? Maybe though.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with orange, and then we're also gonna do our little camera change. Okay. 3, 2, 1. I kind of don't want it now, but Okay, we'll just leave this in the background. This will get cropped, but let's we'll pause. See you in a momento. In a momento. Ooh. Okay, so mystery sound number 3.
We did that one, eh?
Oh, sorry. Mystery sound number 3.
Bumbaclot.
What did I say?
Bumbaclot.
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 Bumbaclot. I've heard of this word. I think it's Jamaican. Bumbaclot. I don't know what the fuck I'm Googling right now. But we'll have that going on in the background and see if Bumbaclot comes up. Welcome back to the next section, everybody.
Bumbaclot.
We're doing the Bumbaclot, the body composition checklist. So we're back. Let's get back into the body composition checklist, everybody, which is literally these are the things, these are the dot points or the things you got to tick off to make sure that you're aware of these, or you're doing these, or you're covering these things. This is your to-do list. So we're going to dive into the do's and don'ts of body composition, as many people listening will have very varying goals around muscle gain or fat loss or something around health and well-being. So the first handful of points that we cover will satisfy all of those goals, because they're related to making a human healthy and optimal, and because humans healthy and optimal, then all of these goals are then able to be achieved. And we'll then add some more specific notes for the more common goals of muscle gain and weight loss, etc., etc. So going into it, the stuff that's going to help everyone. Nav, can you start throwing some things? Maybe not me, throw it at the audience.
Okay.
Hit them with it.
Kindly pass on the knowledge.
What are some of the big killers of body composition?
Yeah, so the biggest one is the overconsumption of energy. Of
Bumbaclot.
Sorry.
It's the overconsumption of food and living a sedentary lifestyle.
Yes.
To me, that means chasing that comfort through acts of laying on the couch, napping, watching TV, watching movies, eating lots of food.
Maltesers, Oreos.
KFC, Red Rooster, all that stuff, right? It's like living that lifestyle where you're chasing the comfort through behaviors like being lazy, being greedy, and I use these words generalizing, but the reality is it comes down to that. It's your relationship with yourself, chasing comfort, and having a level of greed with what you're consuming, and then also being lazy, having a sedentary lifestyle. Yeah, that is probably the main driver, which then falls into stuff like a lack of hydration. Yes. So that impacts our metabolism, stiffness and appetite and general health. As we know, we're 65-70% water. Yeah. So a lack of that will impact all that. Same thing as digestion and distributing nutrients throughout the body.
Yeah. Shout out to Eliza Headley for making our nutritionist friend, for making us really aware of how important hydration is. So hydration has been bumped up the list of things to prioritize when it comes to being healthy.
Absolutely. Yeah. What else?
Lol, I'm going to be talking about this one. Lack of sleep. Says the guy who
Pass that one over.
Says the guy who didn't sleep last night.
True.
Lack of sleep. So restricted sleep is linked to many metabolic disorders. Metabolic is around the digestion and the body and the energy production of things, which includes like weight gain and obesity. So it also influences our gut health, which then leads to health disorders such as inflammation, bloating, food sensitivities as well. Poor sleep also affects the metabolism and the hormones, including the balance between leptin and ghrelin, which are not things we're going to go delve too deeply into because you don't need to remember what leptin and ghrelin are, but they are, I'm making sure I'm reading my notes so I get this right, they're two hormones which affect your appetite. Leptin decreases and ghrelin increases your appetite. So more ghrelin in the system makes you hungrier. But basically when I have to look this up again because I didn't write it in the notes, but when you are underslept, your body will underproduce and overproduce your leptin and ghrelin in amounts that I can't remember if it makes you more hungrier or if it makes you less hungry so that you don't eat at all and your metabolism not doing anything. But either way, heavily affects the function there. You don't have to know that. You don't need to know the fine print. Just don't do it. Sleep heaps. Minimum 7 hours, unless you're Josh. What else, Nav?
Stress is the next one.
Yeah.
So your body, when it moves into fight or flight state.
Yes.
So your sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight, and then your parasympathetic is rest and digest.
Obviously, the listeners should know that because they've listened to episode 3, stress.
Yes, I don't really need to say anything else. If I
I
dive
think it's
into it, obviously rest and digest impacts your digestion, your immune system, and then being stressed is going to impact that in a negative sense. You're not going to be able to digest as well, burn fat as well, and also hold on to muscle because we want to go into a catabolic state, which is breaking down to muscle, which is the stress state when we're using those muscles and that energy. But we also want to have a balance of being in an anabolic state where it's building, it's recovering, all the nutrients and hydration, everything's going back to the muscles that are being torn and broken down during movement and exercise. So stress is really important to have a good balance to allow body composition.
Yes.
Not just losing heaps of weight where you lose muscle and fat, but maintaining a level of action, so positive stress, and then also reducing negative stress and being in an anabolic state to recover.
Yeah, very, very well said. I'm just trying to double check my quote and make sure that I quoted the right episode if it actually was episode 3. Maybe it's episode 4, but I will quote that in the background.
Yeah.
Another one is inconsistent sleep. No, I'm kidding. Inconsistent eating times. Inconsistent eating in general. And inconsistent eating is usually a reflection of reactive eating as opposed to proactive eating. And in our nutrition segments, we always talk about as a habit, as a mental focus, being proactive is like the most important thing when it comes to your psychological view on food and nutrition. Because if you allow yourself to be reactive, then you're going to be eating food that's probably not as well planned because you haven't planned it at all, which means you're more likely to either be in a really hungry state where you're going to crave more sugar, you might eat more than you need to because you're extra hungry, or you might be on the road and having to buy something or go for something fast food, or I can't be fucked, I'm tired, I'm going to order takeout or Uber Eats or whatever. It's when you start to really be proactive around your food that then your consistency of your food improves, such as your eating times and your eating amounts and your eating the types of foods that you're eating, like the quality. And so as long as you focus on being proactive rather than reactive, then the inconsistent eating times, the inconsistent eating amounts, and the types of food that you're consuming, they will all start to improve, and you will feel better, and you'll see a better result in the scales / the body scan / the mirror, whatever your thing that you're doing to measure your progress. So inconsistent eating is a big factor. Over to Nav. What else we got?
Alcohol.
Yeah,
which we're already aware of, but if you want to gain more information on it, if you follow us in our SMA members Facebook group, that will see Eliza and you talk about poison in that group as well. Then people could gain more awareness surrounding the effects of alcohol. But in short, it's a poison, it's a toxin on the body. And the body has to digest and break down and remove that toxin and poison before anything else. Because obviously poison's not good to the body, so that can impact things like fat burning and inhibit muscle gain, not only through that process and not digesting or moving nutrients correctly of food that's in the body while you're digesting alcohol, or also its impact on the gut, but
definitely.
Or where was it? Also your hormones, like it impacts hormones to the point that can impact testosterone and muscle gain through those pathways, as well as calories.
Yes,
It's
absolutely.
extra sugar, extra calories, energy in the
calories,
body,
yep.
even if it's just the alcohol itself. But then if you're having sugary drinks on top of that, like pre-mixes and what have you, that's extra calories in those drinks, and we don't want that.
Absolutely not. And also there is with alcohol consumption is your likelihood of buying a kebab at 3 a.m.
It's very high,
increased
very
by
high.
370%.
Yeah.
is where you're more likely to get a kebab in the middle of the night or the middle of the morning. So
Yeah.
definitely don't do that on the alcohol. I can proudly say I haven't been drunk since 2016. I'll get drunk this year though, when I go on my Bucks holiday. Not for me, but when
I didn't know you were getting married.
yeah, I'm not getting married. Maybe I am. I'm getting married. Yeah, because I'm going to have kids before you. I'm going to have a son.
Oh, shit.
Older, and then a daughter, and I'm going to get a border collie and a black kelpie as well.
Yeah.
So definitely try and avoid getting kebabs at 3 a.m, but managing your alcohol at the bare minimum, guys. Manage the alcohol, and then dealing with that is also sugar, and these tend to come hand in hand as well. Like they can commonly be swapped out or consumed together. So some people, when they're trying to get off the wines at night or the beers at night, they tend to snack on a few more sugary things as well, and commonly, not as commonly, but they get, when you're trying to get off the sugar, then the alcohol creeps in as well. But the thing about sugar is that a lot of alcoholic drinks are full of sugar, as well as a lot of delicious soft drinks that many people love, as well as just your general packet food that usually all have sugar in them added to some degree. Even things like, what's the lolly brand, the All Natural Confectionery Company or something? It's just still fucking sugar.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid and I was like, healthy lollies, let's all buy the all natural confectionery because it said the word natural, but it's still just sugar. They're still just lollies.
Powerade is still sugar.
Powerade is still sugar. Powerade is delicious sugar water. Yeah, it's not ideal. So again, although sugar is quite helpful around sports, training and nutrition, especially me, when I do my ultra marathon racing, I actually drink maple syrup straight out the bottle, and I also mix it in with water, and I sip on that water as well. And I really notice, and I'm actually feeling it quite a lot lately. I've been going to the shops and buying dark chocolate again because I'm a naughty boy, but just because I'm like, I know that I'm going to get my sugar cravings, and I'm allowing myself to have those sugar cravings lately, which I am really excited to go on my 50-hour fast and my gut health protocol in 3 to 4 weeks actually after my last ultra, so then I can get the body to not be so addicted to sugars, because even as a health and fitness coach and a dude that is on this podcast preaching getting off the sugar, as someone who invites sugar into their diet as a result of their training plans, I still struggle with it as well. I don't I haven't had soft drink in years. I don't like soft drink. Alcoholic ginger beer, you probably could because I've had it, although I haven't been drunk. I've had a few sips here and there and a couple of bevies, but I really notice myself how hard it is to navigate sugar. So someone of where I'm at, it must be even harder for people that are not health and fitness coaches and don't have a lot of health and fitness momentum going for them already. So sugar's a challenge. What else, Nav?
Last one is the large amounts of gluten or dairy, but also the amount of gluten or dairy that you can hold and maintain for you. However, I would definitely recommend going on a elimination and then bring them back in. So eliminate them for at least 12 weeks, and then bring one back at a time in small amounts to gain awareness around your body and your lifestyle and how much it impacts you. Because things like gluten and dairy could create inflammation, which can impact stuff like digestion and your metabolic function. Lactose is a sugar as well, so then we want to be mindful of sugar. And then how inflammation or how your mood and your mindset impacts your ability to actually show up within your life, right? Like, we want to create more proactivity within your life to be able to exercise intentionally, to be able to have the mental willpower to deal with stresses of life, to then still go for your meal prep instead of grabbing KFC. And this is where inflammation is big for me. It's not necessary because eliminating gluten and dairy is going to impact my body composition directly, but what it will directly impact is my mood and my energy, my performance, which then will impact my body comp. So I think there's a lot of conversation surrounding energy in versus energy out, which is true. However, also how can we impact your mindset and your well-being to the point that you're energized, you're charismatic, you feel good, so then you're going to eat well, you're going to train well, you're going to sleep well, you know? And this is where I think dairy and gluten really impacts people that they're unaware of. They don't really think too much about that within their life.
Yeah, and I resonate wholeheartedly. I used to be one of those people that I was like, gluten doesn't affect me. When people say that, they're like, oh, I can't eat gluten. In my head, I'd be like, yeah, you fucking pussy. Can't handle the gluten. But then I did it myself. I cut the gluten out and then reintroduced it. And I was humbly made aware that gluten, my body didn't love gluten, nor did it love dairy. So that was a really fascinating experience to delve with, and also feeling what it felt like to reintroduce and feeling the effects of inflammation like happen really rapidly, from going from not being hugely inflamed to just like smashing a bowl of yogurt or something and then being like, oh, I fucking need to do a runny poo now, and my head
whoever wants to feel like that as well, right? Whoever wants to feel bloated, like they're going to crap themselves if they fart. You know what I mean? Or when they go to the toilet, they don't feel like they're fully released. Like they feel slightly constipated or bloated. That's not a good feeling, and that's going to impact your self-confidence, your actions, your performance in the gym. So look at ways that you can set up your well-being and your energy so you can succeed as well.
Yeah, definitely. I really, I like that. I like that a lot, Nav. So we've just covered some of the killers of body composition. Just quickly recap that. We talked about overconsumption of energy with not enough exerting themselves which is the sedentary lifestyle. We've got a lack of hydration. We've got a lack of sleep. We've got an imbalance of stress, too much negative stress, not enough positive stress, inconsistent eating, which includes the times and the amounts and the types of food that we're having. Then we've got alcohol, sugar, and then large amounts of gluten and dairy, especially milk. So what about some of the actual body composition essentials, as far as like what are the things that we want to focus on, Nav? What would be hit us with something?
Hydration.
Yeah,
right? Like it's super easy, you know, we want to drink water because it impacts, it's a non-negotiable because it impacts the body in many ways, you know, like hydration of the muscles, the joints, even the brain and our ability to focus and think clearly is also impacted by hydration, digestion, our gut health, our what's the acidity within the body. All these things are impacted by water, and it's just such an easy product to get in. Yeah,
it's not. It's just you just fucking pick up something full of water and drink it. That's what I wrote in the notes about the work to impact ratio. Like it takes fucking 2 seconds to drink some water, but the positive impact on the body is like second to none. It's a really huge impact. Same as sleep, which is the next point. Sleeping, like I wrote, sleep heaps good. I like that. Sleep heaps good, everyone. But healthy sleep is essential. Just in the same way as hydration is really easy to do, sleeping should be really, really easy to do. You just eventually close your eyes and be patient, and eventually you're off. And 7 hours is the minimum per day. That is the non-negotiable, according to, let's quote Dr. Ian Dunnican, the guy who we did our sleep seminar with. And he really showed us some of the stats about 7 hours being the bare minimum, even until the day you die. So I say that a lot these days. So remaining hydrated, and then just minimum 7, and so that's 7 hours of being asleep, just so you know, not 7 hours of like, oh, I was in bed for 7 hours. It's like you have to factor in the fact that it will take you a few moments to go to sleep, and also there's times where you are still asleep but restless in bed, or you might actually wake up to go to the toilet, or you might just wake up anyway. And so those windows where you are starting to move around or wake up, those actually subtract from your total sleep time. So really 7.5 hours minimum, 7 hours minimum is becoming 7.5 hours, which means you might as well be slithering to bed within 8 hours. Or even give yourself a 9 hours. I love when I set my alarm and it tells me it's like you've got this long before your alarm goes off. I love seeing 8 hours and something. I'm like, yes. All right, let's go. Let's wake up fresh as. I really get excited for that. Nice. What else, Nav?
Proactive nutrition.
Yes.
So proactively gain awareness surrounding how much energy you put out, how much energy you got to have in. So that could either be to the point of tracking and calories and tracking the quantity of food that way, or it could be through portion control. And it could be, okay, you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day. How much protein, carbs, and fats in regards to portion sizing you have each meal? And then how many snacks do you have a day? Do you have a protein shake and some nuts? Or so gain awareness surrounding how much food you eat and how that impacts your performance, your goals, and your lifestyle. And then make sure that you're preparing yourself for success. You meal prep or get a meal prep service so someone cooks for you. Shopping lists and making sure you're going to the shops consistently and have a specific grocery list, and don't purchase things that you know are going to blow you out and you're going to become addicted to and overconsume. Try and maybe stick to going to the shops once or only twice a week and order for the whole entire week instead of these lots of quick runs to the shops when you're hungry and then you're purchasing lots of unnecessary stuff. And other things that you have here is like homebrew coffee, which is to remove the enticing foods and snacks that you get at a cafe. Or so if you used to go to a cafe and getting a coffee, are you looking at maybe getting a brekkie wrap or a muffin or something like that as well? So removing that sort of aspect of your life. What's next?
Sticking to a schedule. Which is very similar to what Nav just talked about as well. It's just like create an eating routine, and it's really being proactive about your whole day. And that means your nutrition is a factor of that, but then everything else that you're doing so that you're setting yourself up for success, which includes like having a think about what time is going to be the most suitable time for you to exercise, what's going to be the most suitable time in usually your weekend to meal prep, what's going to be your most suitable budget, what's going to be your most suitable everything, so that you can pretty much focus on what's important, whether it's your relationships, your career, your family, your kids, whatever it is. Those are the things that are important to you. And as your health is just as important to you, you need to find ways to actually, I guess, create a system or a procedure that you follow, that a routine, to make it easier for you to hit those targets so you can focus on these things as well. Because relationships and career and life, they're the things that we tend to focus the most on, but our health is the thing that always escapes us, and then that actually inhibits us from then flourishing and being nourished in these other areas that we really want to focus on. So sticking to a schedule and find something that is easy to stick with and something that you genuinely enjoy.
Yeah, and on that as well, the next one is prioritizing protein. That's an easy thing you could set within your schedule that will make a big difference, because there's only two ways to impact protein synthesis. One is through training and exercise, and then the other one is through protein itself, is eating protein. What that is, protein synthesis, is the building and repairing of tissue. And that's not just your muscle, but also your fascia, your skin, or your nails, and all of these, right? And so we want to make sure we're providing the body with enough protein for that impact within the body. And then also, the more muscle mass we have is going to increase our testosterone, our metabolism, and then it's going to impact our fat burning process. If we have higher muscle, more metabolism, then we're probably going to most likely run at a higher rate and lose more fat within the body as well. So prioritizing protein is really good, because most of the time people have a out of whack balance with their macros, where they're eating so much carbs and fats but little protein. And so a little thing of flipping that on its head will reduce a lot of the overconsumption of sugar, a processed food, and you're going to get more whole food protein within your diet. And that in itself is an easy way to improve your nutrition.
Yeah, absolutely. And very similar, our next point is choosing whole foods over packet foods. Obviously, you will find yourself buying packet foods. Even if you bumped into me at the shops, I'd still have some packet foods in there. But it's more about minimizing and trying to minimize the packet foods and choose your whole foods, like your proteins, your vegetables, your meats, your eggs, fish is still meat as well. But all those natural things that are pretty much recognizable by our ancestors, as opposed to things in packets and boxes and stuff. The reason why I find things in packets is even a loaf of sourdough bread, which is a man-made thing that I'll probably still finding myself have, or even my muesli bars and my protein bars, they still come in packets, and there's still things that you end up getting, and I still get it. Like at the moment, just having a block of dark chocolate. I'll still end up having those things, but it's about finding a way to manage those. And ideally, I don't buy chocolate at all. But the focus is on actually just as much as you can. 80-20 rule for now is just whole foods over packet foods.
Beautiful. And with that, the next one is food awareness. Mm-hmm. This is where my argument is towards using something like MyFitnessPal or something like the SMA app, is because with the lack of awareness of what you're actually consuming or what is there to be consumed, you might make the wrong choice. Right? Yeah. Like, how do you know if you're making the right or wrong choice for yourself? Yeah, and doing something like MyFitnessPal, where you'll look at the caloric value or the macronutrient value of specific food, like how much protein and fat is in an egg, how many carbs are within an apple, you know, and a lot of people might not have that awareness. And something simple like using MyFitnessPal, the SMA app, you can capture that data. You could gain more awareness surrounding what you're eating and how that impacts you. And I think that's invaluable, and it's super easy to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the topic of awareness, the big umbrella term is self-awareness. And look, self-awareness is broad. We end up talking about self-awareness on every single episode, but the truth is self-awareness is fundamentally a key to success in life. It's a really fundamental point of like living happy, is to be aware of you, what your desires are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what foods you do and don't like, how things affect you, what affects you, what doesn't. It goes really, really deep. But on the topic of food and nutrition, it's knowing what are your weaknesses and knowing when are you more likely to make bad decisions and when are you more likely to make good decisions. And when you understand that about yourself, you can take better actions on how to prevent yourself from putting yourself in a state where you are about to binge. And so, for example, is like if someone's binging on chocolate, try and get them to not buy the chocolate, or get them to a state where they can substitute first before they eliminate. It's like finding a strategy that works for you, but ultimately you're continually making those changes become that better version of yourself. And self-awareness covers all of that. Do you have anything to share about, like, would you be willing to share some of your weaknesses? Yeah,
we can smash through it quickly. I think we're coming low on time.
Yeah, we've got about 2 minutes before the camera drops out.
Should we move on?
Let's do it. Yeah. Nav doesn't want to share his weaknesses, and I don't.
I have none.
He's got none. There we go.
Pass.
That's how you do it. But it is a good point. We'd just be talking about ourselves for a bit, but maybe you can jump on Josh's YouTube channel when he talks more vulnerably about his challenges, and then I'll do a video on like what are my food weaknesses, that you can watch that. Let's have a quick pause. We will move on to our next next topic of training for body composition improvement, and then we'll be tailing off for our mystery items at the end of the podcast. See you soon. Also,
Bumberclot.
I just googled bumberclot, and it apparently means it's Jamaican slang equivalent to douchebag or motherfucker.
Oh, there you go.
So
that wasn't directed at any of you guys.
Yeah, you're all a bunch of
bumberclot.
But there we go. All right, see you soon, everyone. We're back, everyone. So we've just covered a few things about what we need to be focusing on for your self-awareness, your body composition essentials, remaining hydrated, sleep heaps, good proactive nutrition, etc., the killers of body composition. We're going to touch base on some of the things that you can focus your training around, and then we're going to go into mystery items and all those other fun things. So, looking into training styles, many people will be wondering how to optimize their training for body composition. So, Nav, what is like, I don't like this question, but what is the best body composition? What is the best training for body composition, such as fat loss and muscle gain? And obviously someone on a weight loss plan will train very differently to someone looking for strength or muscle gain. But what information can we provide the audience so that they can lean their training into a more deliberate or intentional way of helping seduce the fat off their body if they wanted to?
Well, movement in general, right? Like movement in general, but then the specifics to what you want to achieve then determines the movement that you do. So like we want to make sure there's resistance training for muscle mass. So there definitely has to be a level of intentional resistance training or movement that are going to impact. Although we can't let's say, choose to lose fat on our quad, we also need to move our quads to then stimulate the muscle mass. So then that's going to shift the look of the quad. Like training that specific area is definitely going to matter. So I think it also is really dependent on the person's goals, how they want to look and how they want to move, whether they want to move for a sport, whether it's just moving for their everyday life. So if you do a lot of walking upstairs and that's important to you, a lot of movements are going to improve you walking upstairs, things like that. But it really just comes down to movement, prioritizing feeling good in your body. So being able to sit upright or stand or sleep comfortably, I think that's a primary foundation because that's living. So exercise that helps us live comfortably and strong. And then if you want to progress into something like the actual composition, how your body looks, then you could isolate specific muscle groups and movements to improve that. Or if you do a sport, train in those movement patterns that will benefit your sport.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really important to point out. And the reason we don't have to put a huge amount of emphasis on the training style is that the nutrition and the sleep and the stress management are going to be the more impactful things here, as long as the training itself is inclusive of some sort of muscle / strength building protocol, I guess, which all resistance forms of training is going to stimulate that. Obviously, some modalities and forms have more cardiovascular involved, and so people are like, hey, I need to do more cardio to burn more fat. Yes, that's kind of true, but it's also not as true as people think. It's not that cardio burns fat. Definitely a healthier cardiovascular system from doing some sort of sport or outdoor exercise or swimming, running, cycling, jogging, whatever it is, those things actually do help the body improve its cardiovascular system, and therefore the cardiovascular system working better does aid in the fat loss and the muscle building, because the cardiovascular system really does deliver the oxygen and the nutrients to those working muscles, which is vital in terms of function. But it is more about moving well. It's more about moving well, being strong, being healthy, and just making sure that you're doing things in the name of nourishment for the body. You never really want to punish the body, because that's also, like, in a way, reverse psychology for your body composition goals. The one thing I wanted to point out was that as far as toning goes, toning is a common word that people say to us. They share with us with their goals. I want people to be aware of is that toning is actually muscle building. So when people say toning, what they tend to be talking about is like they want to be lean or skinny, but whilst also having that muscle definition. Whereas that is actually building muscle. In order to have the muscle definition, you actually have to build muscle. And then when you eat healthier and you're allowing your body fat levels to drop, then you're able to then start to see that muscle stand out more. But people get very, very caught up from the bodybuilding area of like trying to do bulks and cuts, and they do like a dirty bulk or a clean bulk, and basically that's like trying to put on size by like smashing food in, and you do that with healthy food or non-healthy food. But the truth is you're just trying to flood the body full of things, where in actual fact you need to be prioritizing training the muscles and building strength, and through any sort of movement protocol is going to help facilitate that. So again, as a reminder, you need to have some sort of muscle building aspect, but then everything from there is mostly your diet and your nutrition management and your sleep and your habit management. So anything to add on to that before we move on to mystery items?
That's perfect.
Cool. So I'll just do a quick recap just to tie everything off here before we go into mystery items. So what you want to do ASAP is you want to review the killers of body composition and make sure you're on top of all of these habits and rules. So in order, they are lack of hydration, lack of sleep, stress management, inconsistent eating, alcohol, sugar, and large amounts of gluten/dairy. They're the things that you want to make sure that you are all over. Usually either managing these better, things like sleep and hydration, or and stress as well, or getting on top of your inconsistent eating or your reactiveness to your food or your alcohol and sugar. Then you want to set the goal of mastering or integrating the following habits or rules into your life. So remaining hydrated, sleeping amazingly, having really proactive nutrition, sticking to a schedule, prioritizing protein, prioritizing whole foods over packet foods, having a great deal of food awareness, and having a great level of self-awareness to the point that you have absolutely no weaknesses like Nav does. Does not have anything.
We don't talk about those.
So lastly, ensure your training includes a movement for posture and some sort of resistance training for muscle growth. Come down to SMA, join our gym, and we can show you all of those things as well. Mystery items. Nav?
Yes. Guess what I brought? I brought my phone.
He brought his phone.
I feel like it's, I don't know, the phone is the carrier of what my item is. I'm trying to figure out the best way to share it, but it is my vision board.
Your vision board.
My wallpaper, so...
You can point it to the camera.
Here, I don't know if you can see that, but...
Hold it in front of your face so they see that. Yeah, there you go. And then push your hand forward. He just gets it straight away.
Okay, I see what's happening.
Yeah,
perfect. So that is my vision board. It doesn't have to be specific to your phone. It could also be something that you have on like Trello. I have my own Trello one.
Yeah.
Even a vision board that you put up in your office or in your bedroom or in your bathroom.
Yeah.
But the purpose of that is to guide yourself towards a purpose and a vision that you can achieve greater. You can have greater success. It's like, you know, The Secret or manifestation or visualization, or you got to see it, believe it before you achieve it.
Yeah.
And the reality is that there's a big level of truth to that, in that you're going to most likely achieve the result that you're placing your focus on, right? Like if you're trying to aim for a specific target, you need to be aiming for a target for you to hit that target, most likely, right? Yeah. Like there is an opportunity or possibility that you might hit the target you want to hit unconsciously, by literally just somehow your gun shoots off and then you hit that target. There is a level of luck and possibility in life that I think needs to be accepted, but in most cases that isn't how life is. There is the importance of visualization, knowing what you're aiming at for you to hit that target, for you to sharpen the right tools, for you to choose the right tools, for you to actually get that result. So that's why my mystery item is my vision board, because same thing with body composition, you need to have the awareness of what you're trying to achieve with your body.
Definitely. I love the fact that focusing on vision and moving forward what you want. Otherwise, if you're focusing on the things that you don't want, that's really what we can see. And a lot of people get buried by their own problems. You can obviously see what my mystery item is.
I actually haven't, no.
You see did you see me carrying it in?
Yes, I did actually. Yeah, I was wondering what the hell that was for.
Yeah, it's my fucking mystery item.
It was so random. That makes perfect sense.
Bro,
I won't even lie. The whole entire podcast, I was like, oh, "What the fuck is that there for?" Oh, wow. 2 and 2.
This is my mystery item. So I have to look at the camera. Whoopsies, just broke it, just smashed it. This is my mystery. Oh, sorry, there's a microphone. This is my mystery item. I don't want to take it out the packaging, but it's just a giant mirror. It's actually, I had to think outside the box because I wanted to bring something in. And luckily we have a spare mirror in the gym.
Yeah.
But the mirror has a variety of points to it. So obviously we talked about looking in the mirror physically and getting to look at your image and et cetera, et cetera. And that's what people usually think of when they see a mirror. But really what I'm getting at here is, yes, that's part of it, but it's more so understanding your reflection of yourself. And it's more, I'm pointing the finger more at having the self-awareness. And a mirror can be a mirror in order for you to see what you like and dislike about you. But a mirror could be, in my case, like my business partner, where I talk to Nav and I communicate to him about how I feel about myself, what I'm going through, and then he acts as a mirror by being able to give me his feedback. And what does he notice about the tone and the specific words that I use that I might not be aware of. And by having these kind of conversations, it's helping me expand my self-awareness so that I can understand why I was so attached to my six-pack, for example, or why I was so scared of not taking a leap of faith to do X, Y, Z, or the things that we get really attached to. Sometimes we're so attached to them we can't see why we're attached to them. And so it takes someone from outside of our focal range, i.e. a mirror or a person, to help us gain that fundamental understanding of ourselves. And that's what we're doing here. Body composition is about changing how your body is, which is, yes, how you look, but there is an element you have to leave behind the person that you are now, because the person you are now is taking actions and having habits that are not conducive to your body composition goals. And so I'm really using this mirror as a metaphor to point the finger at your self-awareness is a really key component about your personal growth.
Beautiful.
There's my Zen wisdom.
Thank you, Guru.
Guru Juice.
Guru Juice.
Guru Juice. Yeah. Sleep more. If anyone's wondering, I slept 3 hours last night because I ran a midnight. I ran for 6 hours last night supporting another guy who's doing an ultra marathon for charity. That's why I didn't sleep. So just had to throw that in there because all the jokes about sleep, and I wanted to talk about my feat of thing this morning. So recommended resources, Nav, for the listeners. What have you got here, Nav?
So I've placed 2 here. The first one being Paul Chek's book, How to Eat, Move and Be Healthy. Mm-hmm. Shared that one because it's a very holistic approach to nutrition, a way of life, and looking at food from a place of nourishment and well-being. Mm-hmm. And I think that suits most of our audience. And if you have that sort of mindset when it comes to your food and your movement and health, that's a great foundation for you to then progress into whether you want to go any further, but most people don't need to or want to. Yep. The other one is Tim Ferriss, very similar, his 4-hour body book. It's just a real basic understanding of what's happening within our chemistry, our metabolism, our hormones, our body, our nutrition, our brains, and how to capitalize on that to the point that you only have to train 4 hours a week and get the result you want.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yep, very good. We've also got Matt Walker's Sleep TED Talk and the SMA podcast nutrition series, as well as probably the stress series as well. But these are just podcasts and episodes that really help you get more clearer on your sleep and your stress pillars, because they're so influential as well. If you're someone who struggles with internal dialogue, one of my personal favorite therapists, her name is Marissa Peer. She has worked with A-list celebrities and royal family as such, and she is a lady who is just really lovely to listen to, and she makes me feel real good about myself. But she helps you gain awareness on what language you're using that may be destructive to your psychology. So she has a podcast interview on London Real, or she's also recently been on The Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett as well. And the last one I wanted to quote was Dr. Anna Lemke, and her book is called Dopamine Nation, which is the book that we recently quoted by recently, like 15 minutes ago. That's how recently ago it was. There we go. So thank you very much for listening, friends and family and listeners and followers of the SMA Strength and Motion Academy podcast, the Strength and Motion Show. Thanks to everyone who's an awesome bunch of members, and thanks for being a fantastic bunch of
Bumba
but it should be bumper clots. All right, our parting. Do you want to say anything before you go?
No.
Apart from you just hate
love
everyone.
and happiness.
Yeah.
I hate everyone. Love and happiness.
Yeah, as you say, love and happiness. Like, we hate you. No, we're kidding. We love all your listeners. So we're going to go with Purple Sound as our sign-off mystery sound. Thank you very much for listening. Health and happiness. Peace and much love.
Much love. Oh, no. She's so proud of herself for that one too. You can hear it.
There we go. All right. See you, everybody.
Bye.